Back in the saddle with the Golfbet Insider. PGATour.com's Rob Bolton. There he is in all his resplendent glory as we preview the Shriners Children's Open, looking very much like a guy you might bump into at the blackjack table at the Golden Nugget this week in Vegas. What's happening, big fella?
You noticed the shirt, did you?
I did.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. I was going to say this would be what I would be wearing if you saw me on the strip. I wanted to look the part this week for the PGA Tour stop in Vegas. By the way, it's been a minute since we've seen each other. I've really enjoyed my conversations with Paul Holderwanick, but I feel like, you won the bet this year. You swept me 4-0 in our bet. I figured by now I would have heard from you, by the way, rub it in or something. So I figured, the Cubs, they're going to make me feel good today. They didn't make me feel good in our bet. So there's that. There is a real talk of the tour bump when you have a guest on the other half of this show every week, and then he plays really well and has won the PGA Tour event of the week. I don't want to sleep on the other side of the pillow of this talk of the tour segment that I have with you, with Keegan Bradley on the wall. I've had him on the wall all year. It's the only thing I have had back there other than a couple of collegiate flags to represent family over time. So one of which you missed last week with the Utah stop. Since he's been nominated the Ryder Cup captain, he went ahead and won the BMW Championship. And then since I've seen you, what did he do? He scored the winning point for the President's Cup, the United States squad for the President's Cup. So I don't want to sleep on the fact that, and I haven't heard him mention this, by the way, that he's been on my wall this entire year. The support has been there. The man crush is real. The talk of the tour bump is real for this side of it. So I had to bring that in there because the President's Cup had occurred since we were there.
Let's do a little breakdown here. I want to talk about a couple of guys who you could have easily made the case as number one in the power rankings this week who are not, including Tom Kim, who's won TPC Summerlin the last 2 years. His scoring average there, 65.5. That is sparkling, and he is easily the chalk this week, big fella, at plus 1,400 going for the three-peat.
Look, Tom Kim, he could be playing better upon arrival. I know he's been way up and down. He's still number 5 in the power rankings. He has to be. I'm just not looking at him in an outright situation. Yes, there is the element of going back to back to back. That's what he's doing. It's more of he's already won the first 2, so it's really just winning one now. I don't get caught up too much in the pressure or whatever he's chasing there. It's more of an accomplishment personally than it is anything that we want to hang our hat on. It's just about his performance upon arrival. It just hasn't been as strong. President's Cup was just okay. It's a tough one to play well at for all internationals. He did last time. He didn't play all that great this time. But he's still number 5 in the power rankings. That would be the bet this week for Tom Kim to go back to back to back. Maybe back to back to T5.
The man with the hot hand is Matt McCarty right now. This kid is unreal. 3 victories on the Korn Ferry Tour to earn the automatic 3-win promotion to the PGA Tour. Then wins last week in Utah, and he's got a lot of attention now, a lot of expectations now. Maybe life changes a little bit, but the performance is unquestioned for McCarty, who's number 3 in the power rankings this week. And the markets are paying attention. At plus 4,000, that's a pretty low price for a kid only playing for the second time out here.
If you still have it out there, you better grab that because I'm looking at plus 3,300 as we're speaking here on a Tuesday. Obviously, markets will vary. I'm actually surprised he's not even lower than that, just given how the markets work. They're still giving you a little bit of a, can you keep this up? Go ahead and be rewarded. It almost feels like a promotional odds in that sense, even as low as 3,300. So there's that. I love these stories. We talked about this. Talked about this with Paul when McCarty made his debut at the Sanderson Farms, and then obviously he won last week. He has absolutely everything to gain. It's 100% to gain. Pressure's off. He can do what he does, and look what happens when he does. There is that element that he loves desert golf. He's from the Scottsdale area here, so it's in his blood, it's in his eyes, it's in his muscle memory and all that sort of thing. He's just really comfortable. There's a part of me that wonders, when has he had enough? Well, that hasn't happened yet. 4 wins and 10. I joked in the power rankings he's number 3 basically because none of his wins have been consecutive. So he'll, but then of course I threw some self-deprecating humor in there saying that this critique is worthless. He'll probably go out and improve it this week. But those odds are tasty. That's what I would jump on. I would definitely lean into him for another win because there really isn't. Despite what the board says and what Tom Kim is achieving, just like last week, there really isn't the favorite in my eyes. And so that's when he can step up and do it all over again. The fact that he's committed, he won, he didn't have to play. The fact that he's committed and wants to play again, Swanee, and just keep that train rolling is all I need to know.
Crazy that he could win for a fifth time in less than a calendar year. The man that McCarty vanquished last week in Utah was Stephan Jaeger, who was the runner-up. He has checked a lot of boxes the last year or so, has found his comfort zone on the PGA Tour after bouncing up and down 4 or 5 times from the Korn Ferry Tour and not keeping his card. He's a winner, took the title in Houston. He's exempt for all signature events next year. Now he's looking for that second validating victory here this week, Rob. Plus 2,800 to win, probably dipping a little bit, and he's number one in your power rankings this week.
Last week's narrative for the Black Desert Championship, he snuck into my power rankings more as trust. He didn't really have sort of all of the normal indicators that I like for my process, but there's sort of like the miscellaneous category as it swirls around in my brain. As much space as that's up there, I tend to grab it and I'm like, okay, what is this? Well, it's Stephan Jaeger. His class is sort of permanent. It's getting there. It's relative to the field it is. So I respect that. And what happens? He goes and finishes solo second. The defining factor of Jaeger as it concerns how I approach him is that he tends to play much better on harder golf courses. And the fact that he went 20 under on last week's track really says something to me. Not to say that these guys can't go low. I mean, Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Cantlay, a couple guys that rush to mind of guys who play very well on tough tracks, who have played really well on easier tracks also, because golf is golf and relative to it, and as long as they're committed. And Jaeger remains committed. He's still chasing a lot. He's close to, getting into all of the majors next year. That's what he's chasing at the end of the year, top 50, and he's inside it now after last week's solo second, so one more strong finish. And for me, he's the betting favorite in my eyes, even though he's not the board betting favorite.
There's another guy who's in that plus 2,800 neighborhood, and that is Beau Hossler, who is starting to gravitate into that space of best player without a victory on the PGA Tour, which has always been a bit of a dubious label, right? But it means you're putting yourself in the hunt to win often, as Beau has done and did in Jackson, Mississippi, playoff runner-up a couple weeks ago. He's at plus 2,800 as well, and he's on a heater, Rob, minus 38 in his last 8 rounds on the PGA Tour, number 8 in your power rankings this week.
There's a contingent among us who do what we do that probably would bet that Beau Hossler will not win a PGA Tour event. There's just almost like his emotion gets the better of him. Now, when he came close at the Sanderson Farms, I was impressed. He held it together. You could tell the intensity was there. And he lost in the playoff, and that could have gone in either direction. He was hitting it so well tee to green, and then he lost it when the pressure was greatest late in the tournament. We saw what happened on television with the ruling. That happens all the time when we never see it. It just so happened in the heat of the moment, and he actually recovered nicely from it, and it didn't bother him. And that really showed me something. That's what I've been wanting to see out of him, with some of that grit when the lights are the brightest. So that I'm logging that. In terms of this week, the fact that he bounced back by the T11 was strong as well. So he's really proving something to me. He's getting to a stage perhaps in his career, perhaps, something in between his ears and his heart is changing into that, you get into that place where you're in your prime and you're just more comfortable and you sort of let things roll off your shoulders a little bit easier. That's what it seems to me where he's going. We felt this way about Luke List as well for different reasons, basically because of his putter. And now he's a 2-time winner on the PGA Tour, and he's much older than Hossler. But they're in that same lane. Hossler's in that same lane. So that's mentally where I am with those guys. Top 10 this week for Hossler will be strong. I mean, his trajectory is there for it. You're going to find plus value for it. So if you're going to put him on your card, limit it to a full unit. That's still respectful and strong this week, but I wouldn't reach any further.
Guy who kind of lets things roll off his shoulders and is seemingly unaffected by the heat on the
John
PGA
Swantek.
Tour weekend.
I'm sorry.
Is Harris English, who finished 6th in Utah last week. He's had some niggling injuries the last few years, but pretty healthy now. In terms of pure talent, there might not be anybody better in the field here this week, in my opinion, Rob.
No.
He's at plus 4,000. That's a nice plug and play, isn't it?
Yeah, you could trust the guy. We've really wanted to. This is sort of the thing, like Daniel Berger, some sort of thing, different reasons. Both guys have come back from injuries. English has come back a lot stronger from his surgery a couple of years ago now, and Berger, we're still waiting on him, even though the top 10 at Sanderson Farms. Hopes were much higher last week. and he didn't deliver. But again, shootouts being shootouts, maybe Berger will be back on board this week. He's not my power rankings. Berger, that is. English is number 11. Confidence remains high, makes tons of cuts. One of the best putters on the planet, and I agree with you. He's, pound for pound, probably the best player in this field. So at 40-1 to win, yeah, not a sleeper, not a favorite, but yeah, I dig that. He's not going to let you down. For me as a conservative, even though he's number 11 in the power rankings, I'm still a top 10. I want to put those units in places where I'm actually going to come away with, a check rather than a bill at the end of the week.
So we're recording this a day earlier than we typically do. It's Tuesday afternoon here, and I did not have access to your sleeper content on PGATour.com before we started to record today. Typically, I give you a nice, smooth little segue to tee you up on a couple of your sleepers, but I got nothing this week other than who's your outright sleeper?
Smooth little segue. I like that tune. One of my favorites. Not a band name. We haven't had a band name on this show for a while. Sleepers has published, probably right when we were setting up to record today. I have Ben Coles at 100-1 to win as my outright. He will join the others who have not won as an outright this year. We could just bank that. I would like to think that I'm kidding, but, next week we'll have a different conversation. That'll be about the same conversation than the fact that none of these outrights have won. However, the reasons for Ben Coles are multi. Number one, he's fresh off a couple of good performances before the cut, made the cut, and then tailed off. He was one off the midpoint lead last week, finished way off the mark on the weekend, didn't even break par, and he should be scolded for that. He's comfortable with his card, so he's like in 83rd or something in the 83rd in the FedEx Cup upon arrival in Vegas. Like the fact that he's safe there. He can focus simply on getting his first win. The last two winners are first-time winners. He's chasing that, and he's playing this year with the special status as the Korn Ferry Tour points leader from 2023, largely in part because he won twice, so winning is not unfamiliar to him. He had a solo second at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. He led after 54 holes at the Puerto Rico Open. His first real taste of being in the hunt finished T6. So he's had enough of it, in my opinion. Job safe, put it all together, and at 100-1, why not?
Okay, dealer's choice on the prop here. Typically, I would lead you toward the top 10 and tee you up on that, but I know you've cashed a few times in the top 5 space this season. So what direction you headed in this week?
That, my friends, is called a smooth little segue, because that's exactly what I was going to mention to you. 5 top 5s have come through for me this week, so I might as well just jump into S.H. Kim for top 5 this week. Swanee, he's plus 3,300. That's outrageous. All year. It might be the longest odds I've had but he was my winner. He's my outright winner in sleepers for the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, and finished 4th. So he would have paid off the top 5. I lamented because I had him for the top 5, moved him into the outright to make room for who I thought was a better top 5 who did not deliver. So it's like I have 5 winners and then Kim, and then Matty Schmid last week, who was my winner, finished 5th. So it's all within that breadth. But the reasons are the same for Kim, because he's not awesome on approach. But at places like Black Desert, where he was okay, and places like TPC Summerlin, larger greens as well, you can not be awesome on approach and make it a putting contest for you. And that's what Kim does best. Among the leaders on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting, 4th in converting greens and regulations into par breakers. Already has a top 5 when the new greens at TPC Summerlin debuted 2 years ago. So it's just nothing really unprecedented about any of this. It's just reminding you that all of this happened, that he's done it before. And by the way, he's plus 3,300 for a top 5. We will celebrate when he delivers.
Since it costs a lot to win and even more to lose, you and me bound to spend some time wondering what to choose. And the Golfbet Insider is here to help, all over PGATour.com. He's on the X, kids, at Rob Bolton Golf. I'll be in town next week, big fella. Looking forward to your company again next Wednesday. See you then.
All right, buddy. Talk to you.